Thanks for coming to our presentation on collaborating and sharing in the edX community. The group of us have worked together on a number of different projects, and we've been inspired to try to propose something, a way to work together better and make a coordinated contribution to the edX community. And my name is Peter Pinch. I'm the Associate Director of Engineering at MIT Office of Digital Learning. And we're going to start off telling you a little story about the project that inspired our idea about collaboration. This is the story of CCX, or Custom Courses on edX. Way back after the first year of MOOCs on edX, MIT had done some research on those courses, and we found that 20 to 30% of our learners in the MOOCs were actually educators. And a lot of them had gotten in touch with us to say, we love this MOOC, we love your content, we'd like to be able to use it in our own teaching. How can we do that? We put some time thinking about how to make that happen, and started talking to the other members of the edX community at that time. We talked to Stanford, and we talked to edX. We talked to Harvard, and proposed some ways about how to do this technically. Got some great feedback. Most importantly, we changed the name. It was originally called Personalized Online Courses, or POCs, and everybody told us that was a horrible name. So we wrote up a proposal. We put it in front of edX, and they said, interesting idea. We have no capacity to do this, and we can't implement it. But MIT thought it was a worthwhile experiment, and we decided to outsource the work. But we made the decision at that time that anything that was done by our contractor needed to be contributed back into edX. That was actually a requirement. The goal of that was that it would be available with edX.org, but also available in OpenEdX. I heard in an earlier session today how much work that is and how it's challenging. I'll agree with that. It took us about a year to actually get it out the door. Within that, shortly after that year, we had a dozen of these custom courses running, and we had high school teachers and introductory courses at the college level using our materials in quantum mechanics and entrepreneurship and biology. At that point, I'm going to hand it off to Julie from Davidson.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Julie Goff. I'm from Davidson College in North Carolina. And while Peter and his team were up in Boston working on CCX, that will come back. It's okay. While his team was up in Boston working on CCX, unbeknownst to us, my team and I were in Davidson, North Carolina, working on a series of MOOCs for high school students. Specifically, we started a collaboration with the College Board in 2014. And if you're not familiar with the College Board, that's an institution based in the United States which basically partners college faculty with high school teachers to come up with curriculum that serves as an introductory course at the college level. Those can then be taught in high schools, and at the end of the year, students can take an exam for credit, for college credit, if they achieve a passing score. We'll get to my slide eventually. It's okay. So, we had courses built in 2014, and we embarked on a small pilot where we had about 35 teachers in our local school district actually pilot the materials in a blended learning fashion. And the only way that we could actually administer that at the time was creating copies on Edge of every single one of our courses. So if you've ever run courses on Edge, you can imagine that's a big administrative burden. Not to mention the teachers found it very frustrating to be considered an instructor in the course but didn't really have the features and functionality functionality that they thought they would have as an instructor. So all that to say, by the end of our pilot, we said we needed a different way to offer these in a blended learning format to our teachers. So we started networking within the edX community, and we learned about CCX and the work that MIT was up to, and we said, even though it's not a fully baked, fully perfected product, it's still better than what we're doing. And so then in the summer of 2015, we said, we are going to adopt CCX, and so we did. The first year in 2015-2016 school year, we had about 300 teachers who were using our courses in these, we call them private versions because the lingo of edX is not necessarily something that high school teachers understand. So the private versions is what we're calling CCX. So that first year, we heard a lot from teachers, learned a lot about what they liked, didn't like, and that was great input for us to figure out what we wanted to fix about CCX, which you'll hear about that from Xavier and OpenCraft. And then the second year, we have been running CCX as this past year, and to date, we've had about 500 teachers, over 500 teachers, over 500 students who have been using our courses for AP through the CCX tool, and that is a map of the United States and all of the classrooms that are using our MOOCs in blended learning. So for the next part of the story, I'm going to pass it to Yoav.
Hey everybody. I'm Yoav Caspin from Digital Israel, which is Israel governmental innovation agency, and during the last year, we've been building Campus IL, which is Israel National Digital Learning Platform. Israel joined the edX community in January 2016, and in the last year, we've been building the Campus initiative. And one of our challenges is to tackle one of the challenges we tackle in Israel is the lack of digital proficiency among underprivileged communities. And by definition, these communities almost doesn't have access to computers at home because they wish to remain isolated from the World Wide Web. So basically, our only point of entry is to have them in a blended environment inside the classroom. So we analyzed a few solutions currently available in OpenEdX. So we tried cohorts and we tried SPOCs, and we realized that it doesn't necessarily gives us the flexibility, the pedagogical flexibility that we are looking for, and the way we are looking for to empower the teacher in the classroom itself. And still, even when we got to CCX, there were a couple of problems. First of all, there's no official support for this feature. It's not internationalized. And it still offers a quite partial classroom support. Let's say, for example, if you want to have one CCX instructor, which is the technical term, or a teacher, then you can't have one teacher for 2 classrooms, for example, which is a highly popular scenario. And per learner insights, for example, is only available on the admin level. So the course teacher itself is not able to view the analytics. So basically, we got a tip from our edX partner that MIT has been experimenting with this feature, and so in the last edX convention, we met Peter, who kindly invited us to this working group, and so we met Julie, and so we met Xavier as well, and we started talking. And I'm going to pass it forward to Julie as well, right? Xavier.
All right, I'm Xavier Antoviaque. I'm the founder of OpenCraft. So while we weren't originally involved with the conception of CCX, we had worked with Davidson in the past. So when they started looking at working on CCX, we started discussing together. And so what we do usually when we start working on the feature, we start discussing within the community, with edX obviously, but also MIT because Peter had done this. And what we realized very quickly was that there was actually a lot of interest for CCX within the community, despite the fact that it wasn't officially a supported feature. So even in some of our clients, there was the Kennedy School, which was also interested, or even like as soon as 2 days ago, we at the Australian National University contacting us, also wanting to work on CCX. So this project on CCX, where several actors within the community come together to try to improve a common feature, is actually something that we've noticed as a need a few times, quite a few times actually, through our work on OpenEDX. We often have the various clients or institutions who come with very similar needs, but sometimes just each of them have small budgets, which individually are not enough to build the feature, but pulled together could actually allow to build it and have it upstream. So the main thing that we also try to do when we work on features is that we try to make it upstream. So you've already heard a little bit about our upstream first and always upstream approach. So this definitely increases sometimes the budget constraints, because it means the feature needs to be well developed up to edX standards, which are pretty high. So that further increase the need to pool the resources of several actors to improve the architecture overall. So like a few other examples coming from the experience that we have seen. So for example, on peer instruction, which you've probably heard about, there has been an example of collaboration and an example of duplicated work, so splitting of budget sometimes. So there is the tool originally developed for HarvardX, used by John Abbott and Davidson College, who have all in turn improved it. On the other side, there is UBC's XBlock. So the first one is an LTI tool, the second one is an XBlock. So there are some examples like that of collaborations and, again, duplication. Another one would be essay questions. So when there is a free text entry and the need to either repeat that text at some other point within the course or allow the instructors to be able to access the answers that the learners have given, which is a very common need. We get requests about that a lot, but it's not actually a standard feature of OpenEDX. So again, there has been work on Problem Builder that we did originally for McKinsey and the Graduate School of Education at Harvard, also used by Davidson and further improved by them, as well as a number of people within the community or on edX.org. But also some different initiatives, such as what Dartmouth did with RealityX, or edX with ORI2, for example.
So all of us basically kept in contact during the last year, and basically this is the question that we asked ourselves. What we told you about CCX, which is a feature that all of us really need, this is only one use case. So basically what we asked ourselves is, how might we use these connections in order to maximize our collective resources? Because let's say you need a tool for a course and you're not really sure if it really exists. And even after you looked it up online, which can get quite technical, you don't sure that it will actually fit your needs. Even before you're looking for a specific feature, you might want to know, does anybody else in the world shares the same challenges I'm facing? Maybe we can work together. For example, we can take a non-stock keynote from yesterday. We learned about 2 new partners looking for utilization of K-12 for utilization of OpenEDX in K-12 education. So it basically grew our coalition by 50%. So I think we need a charger. The next item is funding. Should I build my feature from scratch, or if only I had resources, or maybe I can co-found the project together with another team around the world dealing with the same feature. And like Xavier demonstrated, demonstrated earlier, so external developers become the de facto matchmakers because they know of all the projects, and they're basically they're the hubs in this knowledge network we call the community. But even that can be tricky because they're not always able to share information about clients. And even if they do, usually it's a hit or miss scenario, and it can get quite difficult.
So to try to solve that problem and try to share a little bit more effectively and try to foster this kind of collaboration, we've worked a little bit on a solution which we are presenting to you today. So we've based the idea on creating a place, specifically online, where we would all be able to share both our projects, the things that we have done, the things we want to build, and etc. So we took it as the format of an online forum, which is something that really allows to have exchanges and is kind of the more open form of online tool, and that can fit a lot of use case. So one of the concepts is to create a repository of existing tool. So just to be able to tell what already exists, share the upcoming needs that each of the partners or community member can have, so the future project, the developments that are happening right now. And eventually, within those discussions, offer an opportunity to co-found some of those projects, especially the development ones, to be able to reduce the duplication of work and try to kind of manage the resources of the community in terms of development a little bit more efficiently. So there are like kind of 3 buckets that I've mentioned, so what we have today. So there are already things that exist within the community that cover some of those needs. So for example, there is a list of Xblocks either on the Confluence wiki, xblock.org, and etc. But this is limited to Xblocks, which is kind of a technical-centric concept, so that doesn't cover LTI tools, or maybe GS inputs, and etc. So a lot of different approach that can also provide solutions. There is the product roadmap from edX, which can be useful to know what's coming up, but this is limited to what edX does. So that doesn't expand to what the community can do, and especially not what we can collaborate on. The partner forum from edX, which is also a good place. It's also a forum, but it's limited to the partners. So it means other members of the community don't get access there. Individual developer, contributors, or vendors are not there either. In a lot of those solutions, the collaboration is not really the central piece. It's more something that should come on the side, and that's the center of what we want to do here. So what do we need? So we need a first place that allows to list all the existing tools and features, and allow people to discuss their specific use case. We really wanted to be a place where we use plain language and not something technically oriented. Like, for example, I don't need to know that it's an Xblock at first. I just know what I want to be using it for. We want also to make it centered on what the course team want to achieve. So rather than listing the features of specific tools, it will be about what will appear in the course or what's the intent of the course author. And then once all of those are listed, we want to make it possible to have discussions between partners and contributors to dig deeper, understand the tools themselves a bit better, and know of all the existing applications or use case. And then finally, this is a great base for what should be built afterwards. We want, based on those discussion threads, we want to give the possibility for, let's say, an edX partner or contributor that really wants to develop a feature to collect specifications from the different community members involved in that thread, so people who actually want something similar, to try to define an MVP, because that's a condition to be able to bring an estimated cost, especially an estimated cost of bringing it in OpenEDX or contributing it upstream. And then the idea is once there is this estimated cost that gives a basis for the different parties, institutions or companies and etc. are interested in that feature to see what they can contribute in terms of fund, in terms of development time and etc. to see if that feature can actually be built as a collaborative work.
So now for the big reveal, we do actually have a live site that you can check out. There's the URL if you want to go there. But a few features that we wanted to highlight, there is basically a wiki where you can post ideas, again, sort of using that plain language, your use case. My faculty member wants to be able to do X in his course and just describing that user experience that you want. And you can collaborate endlessly through the threads that are there. Additionally, there are features like voting and liking and following. So if there's something there that you really like, you can vote for it. So that starts to build critical mass around ideas or use cases. You can follow something if you're interested, but maybe not necessarily needing it right now. And this starts to bring some critical mass, some populations around ideas. And
so, in order to maximize the chances of matchmaking in this sea of idea and projects, we've created a tagging taxonomy based on Davidson's, MIT, and campus's current roadmaps. And we will try to keep it as minimal as possible in order to prevent the inflation of tags and getting to the point where multiple tags that describe the same thing actually exist in the platform. And of course, this taxonomy is merely a suggestion, it's only a good start, and we will keep improving it with your help. The tag system is currently closed. In order for people, let's say that you want to, after you read the idea, you want to share your own ideas and your own current projects running, so you will be able to see if there are specific tags that already describe your idea, and if not, you can contact us through the site feedback thread, and we'll add the tag for you. We will also publish the full taxonomy of the site in the site feedback thread later on.
so this is where we need your help. Oh, sorry, got ahead of myself. The Kickstarter notion does come into play here. We think that, as Xavier mentioned, that we can collectively as a community contribute much more if we sort of combine our budgets. So that's actually what we did in CCX. We got together as a coalition, figured out what we would all want, and then Davidson was able to sort of fund a portion of the improvements, and Israel is able to do another portion, that sort of thing. So we want to try to do that more often. We don't have something as slick as Kickstarter right now, but the idea still can happen in the form that we have. So if you find like-minded partners, you have an MVP, you kind of know what it costs, and you can communicate with one another to co-fund and build. So this is where we need your help. We suspect there are probably people in this room right now that have ideas for tools of things that you would like to have but cannot fund. So we kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity to hear from you. Maybe you have something on your mind. I was just in a session with the team from MIT, and they had a whole slide about things that they wanted. So I imagine there are things. So is anyone wanting to offer up an idea? There's microphones coming down. It doesn't have to be fully formed. You can.
Hey, I think this is an awesome idea. Thanks for kickstarting it.
Sure.
So I know one of the big gaps for our customers is reporting. So what's provided by the instructor dashboard is on a per course level, and then Insights is more student aggregate data, but it's not cross-course or cross-site or cross-organization. So I already skimmed through your list, and I thought the report builder, it's something I've been thinking about as well. Like, let's create a tool that allows the administrators, the course authors, to create the reports that they need of the data that they want to report on. Because right now we have to create a custom report for each customer, and that gets very tiresome. So that's one that I would love to see some collaboration. Maybe the different open edX solution providers could come together and flesh out the use cases and make sure we can build a tool that's going to work for everyone.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah, let's talk more about that. If you guys, if anyone's interested, like, I'd love to talk about that.
Add it to the thread. Anyone else?
Maybe current projects.
Or current projects that you're working on that would be nice to have someone come give you a little extra funding. Oh, okay.
No funding required. I have an NVIDIA QuizX block.
Okay.
Oh, what?
No, it's okay. I think they hear me. I think that we definitely want to get the conversation going here, but if anybody of you have the ideas, I'll be more than happy if you can engage on the platform itself, because we had a discussion with Marco earlier, and we asked him, how do we convince edX to spend time on a specific feature? And he told us, if you'll show us that there is a coalition on a specific issue, then we will have more voice once we issue the request to edX, and we will demonstrate them that there is a need, there is an actual need for this in the community. So if anybody else is interested in building a report builder like us and an app assembler, or I didn't get the name, so about an NVIDIA quiz, NVIDIA quiz X block, so feel free to engage on the site. Any other projects? Regis?
I have an idea. I've been playing with this for a while, but that's okay. I can project.
I think they want to hear you on the video.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, in distance learning situations where a student may require some tutoring or mentoring, I think it would help a lot if a tablet could be connected to the platform, whereby somebody on the one side would write something like what Khan Academy is rather famous for. And I think that would be a great addition.
So make sure to add it. Make sure to add this idea. And if you find that the tagging system doesn't quite fit your needs, so contact us and we'll create a new tag for this.
Insights without Hadoop?
Sorry?
Insights, but without Hadoop?
Without help?
Without Hadoop.
Oh.
I'm 1 year into the project and I still don't quite get what's an X block.
Yeah.
And I'm an electrical engineer.
Making contents more social. I mean, maybe we can share some courses between these different open edX instances. I mean, a course on Python. There are a lot of courses of Python, but maybe if students could vote for I like this lesson from this course, and I like more that lesson from that course, and maybe mix the best of them to make a very good course on Python based on social votes.
Sounds great, like the mother of all Python courses.
Best of breed. We also have time for questions if you want to throw those in too. So we only got a few minutes left. But keep coming with the projects. We want to hear. Oh. Yeah, sorry, before you go. We are going to be gathering downstairs for a Bird of the Feather session around this topic. So if you're interested in talking more, come join us.
Hey guys. So I just wanted to sort of connect this to some of what Ian was talking about yesterday. So it's really important for us from an edX perspective. We're thinking about things from the perspective of what is the customer problem that we're trying to solve. And the more that we can align the things that you all are looking at in those terms, that makes it much easier to connect with our internal priorities. So I just would encourage you to do that. And I actually think that the taxonomy that you had there was along those lines, but just something to think about as we're moving ahead with this effort. I think that'll really be helpful. And then also Ian's comment about the 3 different levels in the experiment level. The more that we can connect things that we're in the experiment level on to the work that the community is doing, I think is a really great opportunity to build the data that shows what is the most effective solutions to those customer problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one of the things too that I'll throw in from the higher ed perspective is that we don't have endless funds to spend on MOOCs, and so there is pressure that if we are going to go develop tools, that they are things that we could both use in our edX courses, but also on our residential LMSs. So that's some of the things that I've been talking about with peers at academic institutions, just to say, hey, are you using this on Canvas and Moodle too, and sort of talking through those use cases. So we see this as an opportunity to do some of that work too. Yeah.
Is there any form of commitment maybe from the edX community to have this serve as a user voice where we can upvote certain features maybe the community needs? Is that the intention? Because what I'm hearing so far is maybe you have some implementing partner who sees this and takes it up, and then the various people who are requesting it jointly fund the effort versus, maybe core edX team takes up a feature because the community has a high demand for it.
Yeah, I think right now it's more the former. That's what you want to spot, Joel. But I think it's really self-organizing, right? Like making sure we find each other and we can mutually hire firms like OpenCraft to do work for us and make those contributions, and then they're working with the engineering team to make sure that that's done well. So it's really self-organizing crowdsourcing right now.
So we started with the forum, but the next stage is like protesting in front of the edX offices. So it's like, this is phase 1. So.
Any other questions?
Well, congratulations on the idea and the initiative. I think it's great, and it's something that we as edX service provider would definitely like to contribute and be part of. A couple of questions would be probably if you have thought something, or what have you thought about the work that has already been done and it hasn't been merged somewhere? Like I'm sure there are a lot of things that are already there and somehow need some extra push to get to the edX platform. And well, the second question is, I'm sorry, just to finish it up. The second question would be if there is any specific restriction as to sorry, what's the word? If you would be willing to make it a little bit less, a little bit more neutral, so that because of the site being on the OpenCraft, of course, you being part of the initial idea and everything, it's very valuable, but making it so that it's a little bit more inclusive to other brands in terms of providers. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So, well, I'll start with the second question because that's an easy one. Like right now, the URL is just temporary. Obviously, if other vendors want to come, we can organize something together. I think in terms of making it neutral, that's part of the idea from the beginning. The only probably constraints will be things like making sure that the stuff ends up upstream. So certainly a quality level in terms of the execution, but other than that, it's of course open to other vendors. So yeah, if you are interested with that, just like contact me or post directly on the forum, or just come to the BOF, which is right after this, and we'll talk about it there. And for your first question, so for stuff that exists already, that's of course a form of contribution, even if something hasn't been contributed upstream. The fact that the code exists can be already a part of it. It depends, of course, on the quality of it, if we can reuse it, and obviously that's not enough because there is work to do on top of it, so you still need to be able to gather different resources, either development time or money or etc., to be able to do something with it, but definitely that's a form of contribution.
So thank you all for spending the time to come and hear us, and you're more than welcome to continue the conversation with us next to the coffee area on the ground level. That's it. Thanks.